Hey, dear Tyler, how are you? What's up? I hope you're good. I hope you're fine. I hope your day is going well. So, depending on what time you're listening to this particular episode and whatever part of the world you're in, right? I give you such greetings, right? So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I trust that you're good. I trust that you're fine. I want to thank everyone, every single person for celebrating dear Tyler with us, right? 3 years. We turned 3 last week, 29th of June, and a lot of well wishes, and also we're really grateful. Thank you so much for your support and your love, and thank you to every new listener. I actually think we got a few number of new listeners rather, so it was good to have that. And yeah, so one of the things that we said we're going to do is that we're going to really work on our consistency, and this is me keeping to that promise. So first episode of July, and I just really wanted to talk about this topic because it's something very, very personal. And so I target public enemy, right? Inheriting enemies, public enemy. Now, there's usually what you call either a blacklist or a hot list. So a hot list is usually like a list of names that a particular organization are highly looking for, and usually it's because of a crime that they've committed. They have a track record of wrongdoing or some criminal activity. So you'll find out that like in America, maybe the FBI has what they call hot list. You've got or blacklist rather, or let's say the UK MI6, they've got it, and here in Nigeria, security agencies, different agencies, CIA, whatever governmental body represents security in a nation, right? So they usually have what they call a blacklist or a hot list, and these are individuals that are priority targets, right? Priority targets. Now they have become enemies of the state, that they have reached to a point and a level that they are a threat to the whole nation and every individual. So usually in this list you'll find out people that are maybe human traffickers, drug lords, warlords, peddlers of something that could harm and endanger the security of individuals. So I was having a conversation with a friend recently, and she made a very funny statement. We're just talking, and then she asked me a question like, okay, like, Binga, what's the one thing that you're not going to ever do again? And I don't think I could even really pick out one thing. I couldn't pick out something, but I asked her the same question, and then she said that she would never go and fight or speak for her friend or speak up for friends or something like that. And in my mind I was like, okay, why? She said that when she went to speak up for the friend and everything, that what happened was the friend ended up being wrong, and not just that the friend was being wrong and all, but that they almost ended up beating her. And I just laughed about it, and but then it was really one of the major inspirations to this particular episode, right? So I just wanted to be able to capture something because it communicated something great to me. Now she went in solidarity to a friend, so there's this loyalty that we usually have to friends and individuals that we consider close, right? People that are priorities to us. So we, whenever they're in trouble, we just, try to stand up for them, speak for them. And many times we do not even know if they're in the right or in the wrong. Our own is that my friend is in trouble and I'm going to speak up for my friend. Whatever it is, we'll deal with it after. And usually, get caught up in the whole fight. Now, a fight that you're not part of, you now become one of the parties to it, and you begin to bear the brunt, of the whole issues. So one thing that came to mind for me is, why are people so particular for their friends to make their enemies their own enemies? Right? You know, enemies may be like a very strong word, but if I, as an individual, maybe me and you, Tyler, now, you know, we're buddies, we're friends, and I have an issue with one person, right? There is this subtle human factor in me that would require you to also hate the person or also have an issue with the person because you are loyal to me or you value my friendship, right? Whether if it's because we are related or we've built a strong bond, right, that you become my and you become that other person's enemy because of your solidarity to be there. And you know, a lot of times, I think, and I stand to be corrected. You know, I was once in a relationship where my babe was in the wrong. And you know, I tried to, you know, let you know that, okay, babe, this is not proper. What we're doing is not like the right thing. Do you understand that? You shouldn't approach this person this way. And then the first thing she says is like, so you will not defend me, right? So this other person is, you know, saying things about me, and the first thing, you will not defend me. And I was like, no, that's not it, right? We owe this person an explanation, and what you're doing is not proper. At least I am calling you aside and speaking to you, so it's not like it was a public display of disagreement, you know. And so she was very angry. Like, I think she even made a statement, like, even if she's wrong, that I should stand up for her. That's what, you know. So I really started to wonder why. Why do we expect that? We grow up, typically in Africa, and let's say Nigeria, for instance, we are multicultural. We've got a lot of tribes, we've got a lot of cultures, a lot of languages, and even in languages, there are a number of dialects, right? So one of the things that we face in this place is that we are born into conflict. So growing up, I didn't have an issue with any tribe. I didn't see the dichotomy between me and a particular tribe, me and a particular religion. You know, there was no issue. But whilst growing up, the older ones started, you know, pushing certain narratives, like don't trust a chamber man, don't trust a, you know, Christian, don't trust a Muslim, don't trust all of these things, you know, and why? And then what they'll say is like, why, you know, a while ago we had a conflict, they did this, they did that. And you can see two great friends in school all of a sudden become enemies because a narrative was pushed to them that the other tribe, you know, has a fault, you know, are their enemies. I think it's in Rwanda, right? Yes, it was Rwanda that had that issue with the Hutu and Tutsi, right? Just the narrative of minorities and these ones are our enemies. Once upon a time, they lived perfectly fine, but somebody pushed that narrative to them. Right? Now, if there is something that I have learned over the past maybe 6 years, is that there is no profit in inheriting enemies. There's no profit at all in inheriting enemies. Just because an individual that you are close to has a bad relationship with someone doesn't mean that you automatically would have that bad relationship with that person. And I try my best to be able to find a scriptural reference to everything that I share, right? Now, dear Tyler, it's faith-based. Now, I try to find a Christian reference or a Bible-based reference to the thoughts that I have. And, you know, I'm very open to correction. You know, maybe there's something I'm not seeing, there's something that I'm not understanding. But the person I want to use in question is a very lovable character in the Bible, and his name is Jonathan. Now, Jonathan was the son of King Saul and also the best friend of David. Now, imagine what Jonathan felt. Like, he loved his father, no doubt. So there was no sign that there was any conflict between Jonathan and his father. And there was a very clear display of affection that Jonathan had for David, right? That he saw David and then they just fell in love and they bonded as brothers. Now, when the conflict started between David and King Saul, typically in let's say in a normal family setting, right? Jonathan, as the son of Saul, should have just gone straight into, Saul's side. Number one, Saul is his father, so he loved Saul, right? And there was no indication that Saul had ever done anything evil to Jonathan, right? So Saul was his father, and that solidarity should be there. Number two, David was a threat to him becoming king, right? The kingdom had been taken away from Saul, right, and given to David, his best friend. I'm sure that there might have been many times that Saul would have called Jonathan and said that your affinity to this person, David, do you know what he's going to take away from you? He is the reason why this kingdom is leaving our lineage, right? The whole kingship is leaving our lineage. And then David is there now as his friend, that they've bonded so much as brothers. Imagine how many wars that they've gone to fight, supported each other. And Jonathan finds himself in a conflict. My father and my best friend are fighting, right? Who should I side? Now, typically people would feel that Jonathan was siding David. No, he wasn't. Jonathan maintained his friendship with David and maintained his honor for his father, right? Protected David, honored his father. The father wanted to kill David. He stood up for David as a friend, right? And then he still helped the father rule the kingdom that he knew he was not even going to rule once the father passed. Still stayed loyal to the father, still stayed loyal to David. Jonathan did not inherit the enemy of his father, neither did he inherit the enemy of his friend. It's a very, very strong Bible example that I've learned from. There is absolutely no point inheriting enemies, and I really hope that our generation will be the one that will end all of these things. Right now in Nigeria, there are certain tribes that cannot marry each, different tribes. It's not just possible. Like for me now, there's a particular tribe that I grew up loving. I had a lot of them as classmates, I had a lot of them as friends, and I was really intrigued, by their culture. Now, because of a conflict between my people and their people, I'd even, fallen in love with someone, and once the person I reviewed their tribe, I just knew that it wasn't going to work. I've had, cousins and family members say that if I tried bringing this particular tribe to my place, that they won't come for my wedding, that they will make my wife's life a miserable experience and all, just bringing a whole lot of tension. Now, what happened that instigated such a heart is not justified. So it's not like I'm saying that, they're overreacting or something. No, not at all, right? There were a lot of deaths, gruesome murders. I lost an uncle and aunt to this particular tribe, but I have to learn to separate the individual from the individual that did it, from the individuals that are associated to that person, and usually because of tribe or maybe some form of a sentiment, right? When we look at the story of the Good Samaritan, right, it's very important for us to find out, or rather look at the title of that story, A Good Samaritan. He was a Samaritan, and Samaritans had this very distant relationship with the people of Israel. And there was a man, probably a Jew, in the story, walking, passing through a particular place. He was robbed and beaten. And they spoke about a priest, one of the chief priests, I think other Jewish people too, passing by, and left the man. And then his presumed enemy was the one that took him, catered for him, and paid bills on his behalf. Now imagine the Samaritan looked at that Jewish man, or that individual will be like, me and your people, we've had a long-lasting feud. I'm not going to show you kindness. I'm not going to be good, right? That man would have been left for dead. That man would have been left for dead. Now think about how many enemies that you got, not because they did anything to you, but because you inherited them as enemies. You inherited them as enemies. We may not understand how many people God has sent to help our lives, right? But we have used sentiment and some form of emotional attachment to individuals to make us, be, against some certain people. Now look at it. The kindness that Jonathan showed David translated to the preservation of the relationship between the house of Saul and the house of David. When David became king, one of the first things he did, he said that, is there anybody in the house of Saul? He did not even say in the house of Jonathan, this friend, in the house of Saul, that he can show some level of kindness to. And it was Jonathan's son, Mephibosheth, that was crippled because of a mistake that his, caretaker made, right? He became a beneficiary of a preserved relationship. Now, I'm sure David must have sat down with, his sons and daughters and said that once upon a time, Saul was after my life, and then all of a sudden, Saul is after my life, and I am, taking care of the offspring of, and Mephibosheth was made to sit at David's table until, I'm sure Mephibosheth, died and passed and all. So he was giving a kingly treatment because of a preserved relationship. Now, think about Joseph and his brothers. The brothers made an enemy out of Joseph, right? But that same person that they made an enemy was the key to their salvation. Now, if Joseph had, held a grudge against them or something like that, the whole of Israel would have perished at the end of the day, right? What would have happened is that the pain of Joseph would have translated into another generation that did not even cause any pain or cause any harm. There are a lot of us and there are a lot of individuals that are born into conflict, which is absolutely wrong. So I really believe that the template that Jonathan set is a template that we should keep. An important lesson to learn is that everybody should have the chance to offend you. Now, I stand to be corrected. I'm not an authority in this light. I just have my own, convictions based on a lot of things, that everybody should have the ability to fail you. Let them disappoint you. You can be cautious, around individuals, but then, and maybe because of a particular track record that they've had, yeah, why not? But then, if it's just because of association, look at, every binga behaves like this binga. You get it? Doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that we do not give a level playing field for people. I have seen many people go through life in a particular way that the people that came to their aid would have been considered people you should never meet. And it gets to the point where there are a lot of people that when they help you, maybe there's a little conflict with somewhere, and then that individual now helps you, they'll be like, even if they help you, they always do it to the double mind. There's something that they want from you, and so it's just it's really tiring. It's really, really tiring, and it's something we need to learn, that we should not inherit enemies. We have to be careful about receiving the words of people and what they say about other individuals. One funny thing about the human nature is that when the individual rather is narrating a story, they would always stand in the point of being the victim. They will give you every point that validates their claim to offense. And it takes a whole lot of maturity to be open-minded enough to know that, oh, I have my fault, and this other person has, their fault, or something like that. But typically, because when you want to maintain certain relationships, or you're looking for all of the support, you put yourself on the platter of being the victim so that your offense can be legitimized. And then you begin to feel that same level of dispute, or feel that level of dissatisfaction in the hearts of other people. And somebody innocently, or someone very naive, just ends up putting himself in a particular situation of conflict that yields no fruit. It's not even beneficial. And tomorrow you would end up needing that person's help. But because you've inherited an enemy from a particular friend, there's not much that can happen. And we've got to be very careful. Tyler, we've got to be very careful. Got to be very careful. I know how many amazing relationships I've missed out on because I had friends that said, oh, okay, this person is cool, but this person is cool, but this person is cool, but. And I never even gave the person a chance. I did not even go over and, try, to read the person. I just started antagonizing the individual. And later on, these are the people that have come to help me out, in time of need. Someone said that this person is very stingy, right? They don't like giving, they're very stingy. And then they're the ones, these, in quote, stingy people are the ones that have come out, done the best for me. And later you now find out that it's this other individual that is just covetous, or whatever it is. The basis of this particular episode is that everybody deserves a chance, right, to review who they are, so that you can make a decision based on your own convictions. There is only one enemy that is public to us as believers, and that's the devil, right? He has shown over time he has a direct vendetta against the human race, and we as believers particularly. So our focus and target is him, right? But then for individuals and people, unless they have openly, subscribed, to his own particular nature as our own public enemy and said, okay, this is what I stand for, these are my convictions and all, well, we have no right to inherit an enemy. Absolutely no right to inherit an enemy. I know it's a big ask because some of us really, really had people that came through for us, as friends. Some of us really had other people that came through for us as family. And we don't want to disappoint them in any way, right? But take from the life of Jonathan. He was battling between honoring his father and loving his friend. And his actions never dishonored either. His actions never dishonored either. You see, his action, probably saved Saul from directly entering into the wrath of God. God had anointed David. There was nothing Saul could do about it, right? Now, just like David had the opportunity to kill Saul, and David made this statement and he said that how can he lay his hands on God's anointed? It's the same thing that would have probably happened to Saul. Whatever wrath that he would have incurred, right, was preserved because Jonathan stood in that gap and mediated an everlasting, relationship in the family. Now, I don't know what happened. There are a lot of things in the Bible that are just summarized, stories. But I believe that the fact that David even thought about killing Saul probably shows that there was probably some level of, anger, anguish, or resentment against, Saul. But I'm sure thinking about what Jonathan had done also was a motivating factor to him not being reckless in his actions. That even when his own enemy died, he mourned for both Saul and his brother Jonathan. Brother, friend Jonathan, right? And he went and avenged them. So, dear Tyler, please and please, do not inherit enemies. Do not inherit enemies. I told someone that, imagine, I fell in love with a particular tribe that I can't marry. Now imagine the beautiful love story that could have happened, but because of a conflict that my people and their people will never really come to, a proper compromise and see what we've missed out on. And we still maintain our friendship, we still talk, we speak and all. But there's some levels of commitment that we can't engage in because the culture has given us enemies, by default. Right? Now, trust God for discernment. Right? Some people are a direct danger to your life. Trust God for discernment. But in a general case, Tyler, everybody deserves the right to disappoint you first before you make a conclusion on that. The people that they present to you as your greatest threat could be your greatest blessings. Maybe they were maltreated. Maybe something else was done to them that warranted their actions that way. So please, Tyler, do not inherit enemies, right? Do not inherit enemies. So I really hope that this episode blessed you. I really do hope that it blessed you. And I hope it will help us to reconcile with anybody that we were just very unkind to, any individual that maybe did not deserve any form of anger, or resentment, bitterness towards, right? And that God help us restore relationships. God can use anybody to lift us. God can use anybody to bless us, right? And let's just trust God that will not be the hindrance, to what God wants to do in our lives, right? So I hope that this blessed you. Remember that I love you, I believe in you, and I'm always rooting for you. Please do well to share this episode with other people. And see you guys in the next episode. Bye.